they're listed as federally endangered, and one of the species for which we know very, very little about. They were first listed as endangered in the 1960s and still hold that status. And historically, there's just been more of an interest in the devastating demise of the forest birds, more of an interest in that than in wetlands and wetland-dependent species. So although listed for over about 40 years now, there's still remarkably little known about them. Try to find nests as soon as they're initiated. So getting usually morning locations and then later in the day to see if there's any kind of, if birds are upland or, on the edges, possibly like near ditches at any areas they could potentially be nesting. So I'm getting triangulations and whatnot. Yeah, then a lot of the tracking on the refuge is pretty straightforward because you can get to the bird. You can't always get visuals, but if you get in there enough, you can. We're at Hanalei National Wildlife Refuge, and it was established back in the 70s specifically for the endangered water birds to provide critical wetland habitat for them. And it's about 920 acres. A lot of it is in cultivated taro, which is grown in flooded ponds similar to rice paddies. The factors that led to the population decline of the Koloa and the endangered status apply to all the water birds in Hawaii that are also endangered, and just to a lot of island endemic species in general. We're talking habitat loss, introduction of mammalian predators. You got to remember these species didn't evolve with mammalian predators. And then also in the early 1900s, overhunting. And with the Koloa, you throw in the problem of hybridization, which was brought on by man's introduction of mallards. The hopeful thing about the Hawaiian duck is that it's one species that has potential for recovery. And so the story of their conservation status is an important one to tell, especially given the historic collapse of Hawaii's avifauna. Over half of Hawaii's native birds have gone extinct in historic times. The recovery of Koloa really hinges on making progress in two key areas. One, eliminating the threat of hybridization, and two, targeting management at the factors that are limiting population size. And the second one we're beginning to do here is the research and really try to identify those limiting factors. So anyway, to eventually get them delisted, there will need to be multiple sustaining populations, and that will inevitably mean removal of mallards on Oahu and Maui, removal of the hybrids, because otherwise we're going to run into the same problem. We can translocate birds, bring them over to those islands, but if you still have the root problem of all the mallards, they're just going to hybridize again. Efforts are being undertaken to remove those birds. It's important for people to realize, what's being done, and that we're not just removing birds for the sake of, removing them because they're not native. They are actually affecting the recovery of a native Hawaiian bird. So it would be important for them not to feed, park ducks like mallards and whatnot.